All right, we should be good. Welcome to the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Could we please have a roll call?
Chair Ryan,
Here?
Vice Chair Llewellyn
She's running a bit
is
behind.
running behind. Board Member Davis,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Board Member Salvino,
Here.
Executive Director Chen,
Here.
City Attorney Bootsas. Here. Mayor or Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. Okay, do we have any citizen comments? I do not see any citizen comments, so we'll move right into our administrative report with Mr. Michael Chen.
Thank you, Chair Ryan and board members. Just to let you know, kind of remind you that Sky Spaces, which is the landlord for the satellite CRA office and IP to Market incubator, has received their certificate of occupancy. And last week, we actually had an informal open house for the commission and senior city staff members to actually see what's going on over there after all of this time. Several of you did show up, and I can tell you it's a very impressive transition of the inside of that building to something that will be a modern tech-based center. As part of our kickoff for the new entry of the IP to Market incubator to Dania Beach, FIU shared an exhibitors table with me at the FITSE conference this past week. They actually took applications for their next cohort on how to be an entrepreneur and develop a tech-based business. And that was a very successful event. I understand that this year's FITSE conference was the biggest ever with in excess of 2,000 people attending. Again, I just continue to remind you, Mary Parton, CEO of the Dan Marino Foundation, continues to explore opportunities for relocating the Dan Marino Foundation to Dania Beach. She is looking to open a few of her offices actually into the same building as the CRA and incubator will be. She thinks there'll be a good synergy between the CRA, FIU, and Dan Marino. We have been working with SCORE to develop the next series for our Dania Beach Business Academy, and the upcoming program is Revenue Generation. A flyer of the 4 series classes is attached to your agenda. Basically, the first course is Branding 101. The second is AI Content Generation, how to use AI to benefit your business and generate more contacts. How to build and improve your social media presence, and upselling strategies. I am pleased to and thank Chair Ryan. He's agreed to do a welcome to our class, which is tomorrow night, roughly at this time. Excuse me, not tomorrow night. Thursday night. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got this confused because every night is something going on this week.
Yes.
Speaking of tomorrow night, the West First Avenue Vision Plan, the Arts and Entertainment Visioning Process has a workshop with the Public Arts Board tomorrow evening, starting at 5:30 and running to 7 o'clock. We have worked with the consultant, Calvin Giordano, who will be leading the presentation and discussion again, and lessons learned. I asked him to reduce the size of his presentation so it's not quite so overwhelming and actually allows for some engagement of his audience. So that is going on tomorrow night at the Northwest Conference Room. We have done some outreach to let people know and social media posts that will hopefully drive some public participation in that. Just as a reminder, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance annual meeting is on Thursday, October the 10th. The brochure of that event is in your book as well. The CRA has reserved table space for all of you at that event. the Florida Redevelopment Association, which is the trade
19th.
group for CRAs across the state of Florida, is having their annual conference October 25th. Actually, it runs 25th through the 27th, and that is being held at Ponte Vedra Beach. I will be attending that event. It's always a very informative group. This is where CRA professionals across the state shares their experiences, ideas, and activities. And we have a chance to learn from each other, as well as a very nice, there are always nice panels of municipal experts that help with ideas and challenges that we all face. And then the last notice that I want to provide to you is that the Smart Growth Partnership is presenting a collaborative of diverse professionals and organizations that lead in the advocacy of actually smart building practices. And I mention that because our Commissioner Davis is a keynote speaker at their next meeting, which is November the 2nd, 11 to 3 o'clock at the Learning Center. And the theme of that conference will be affordable housing. And that brochure is also attached here. And that's my administrative report.
Okay, thank you, Director Chen. All right, on to, we don't have any presentations, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Clerk? Sorry. Motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve item 5.0, the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Vice Mayor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is passed. Minutes are good to go. Now move on to discussion and possible action. Item 7.1, please, Eve.
A resolution of the Board of Directors of the CRA of the City of Dania Beach authorizing Habitat for Humanity as a successful proposer under RFP CRA 2023-18 and authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute a purchase and sale agreement between the CRA and Habitat for Humanity of a CRA-owned property located at 608 West Dania Beach Boulevard, Dania Beach, Florida, for $1 for the purposes of developing the property for use as townhomes for low-income affordable housing, 80% AMI, and/or workforce housing, 140 AMI, provided the parties come to a negotiated agreement as to the amount and type of affordable housing, and further provided that the property is tied to a restrictive covenant requiring the purchaser to provide 30 years of affordable housing, providing for conflicts, and further for an effective date.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Commissioner James, Board Member James?
Yes, the only issue that I kind of see is we all know right now how much houses cost, how much home ownership costs, and it jumps from anywhere between 80 and 140. I don't know. I know the 140 is workforce, affordable for workforce, and the other one is just strictly low income affordable. But is there how are we choosing which ones to do? Are we choosing to do two one way and two the other way? I want to know what the thought process is because it's not very clear.
This is with Habitat for Humanity, and from their presentation, from what we've seen, they encourage ownership. So you have to go through their program, you have to qualify, and I don't think they do rentals. They provide the mortgage.
No, that's not my question is, are we, as the policyholders of this agreement, how are we making this? Are we making this to where they're all 80% AMI, half that are 80, half that are 140? Like us, what are we mandating that they do is my question, Mr. Chair.
Chair Ryan, maybe I could assist with
Sure.
that question. That actually is a direction that I'm looking for from this board tonight. I'm actually requesting that you approve for us to negotiate a contract for sale, which will include a definition of the development that they do there. The what can be developed there is right now they're speculating it will be 3 to 4 townhouses. They won't know for sure until they actually do an engineered site plan to determine that. The direction I would like from you, I would recommend that we do at least 50% of workforce affordable housing. So in that case, if in fact they do 3 units, that means that 2 of them would be workforce affordable, 1 of them would be low income. If they do 4 of them, then it would be 2 and 2. But I need your direction for that because that wasn't specified when we made the RFP.
Can you tell me what is the average household income of someone that is under that 80% AMI? What would be their annual income?
Actually, it is in their proposal. I'm afraid I don't have that number in the top of my head. It actually, it varies because according to the HUD directions for how you occupy affordable housing, a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home could accommodate anywhere from 3 people to 6 people because HUD's occupancy depends on the mix of the family that goes into the residence. So for instance, if you have a married couple, they could be occupying 1 bedroom.
I know. What's the standard, though? There's a standard.
But because the point is, the household incomes depends on the size of the family.
So I need information to be able to have the conversation. And I know in the past we've had CRA directors that can at least give us a roundabout numbers so that we can understand it and have that data in front of us. I mean, unless we're talking about we're doing the same exact thing as HUD, which is 2 heartbeats per room, we need to talk about what we are doing. And so that's why I need to know the numbers. Because I'm okay with doing the 50% one way and 50% the other way, but if it's 3, I would want the 2 to go to lower income and then the 1 to be market rate or the workforce affordable versus the other way.
The reason that I've made the recommendation I'm making is because most recently in Dania Beach, the affordable housing component has had more focus on low-income properties. Saratoga 3 is a low-income affordable property. City Place is a low-income affordable property. And we certainly need low-income and more of them. But the workforce affordable housing in Dania Beach has been somewhat neglected, and we desperately need that as well.
Okay, I'll let the rest of my colleagues speak, but we know that things that are still workforce, some of our firefighters can't even afford to live in them right now. And so where we are with inflation and as an economy, what's really deemed workforce affordable is absolutely not affordable.
I understand we're talking about affordable housing, but this is why we authorize this to go to Habitat for Humanity. Because, yeah, they encourage homeownership, and they have their own programs that people have to qualify for in order to qualify for the loan for the house. So it's not like you're just on subsidized housing and then you get help. You know, you have to go through a program for like a year with them. And you have to show that you have a job, and they teach you about homeownership. So that's why I think this is a great choice by the board to go with Habitat for Humanity. You know, I wish we had a representative here. They would give us probably more of an understanding. But I just don't think this has to do with workforce or affordable in this specific situation. It's more, yeah, but this is separate. This is homeownership altogether, where they get a mortgage, and if they default on the loan, then they lose the property. So that's why Habitat makes sure that they have qualified candidates go through their program who, won't default on their loan. And they sell it, because they have to pay for the costs, the construction costs. They bought the site from us. That's why we sold it to them at a good price, because it's good. It works for everyone. And I just think that we're just not, this doesn't really have anything to do with workforce or affordable housing right now. It is affordable housing, but it's not rental. You know what I mean? This is ownership, which we're encouraging, which I strongly agree with. The Vice Mayor, you could touch on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. This is not about, it's not about us making the choice on this. This is what Habitat for Humanity does. So I think we need to let them do what they normally do, have them make recommendations to us as to which way they want to work with it. It shouldn't be on us. This is what their program is. We're not the experts in this, they are.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I'm not confused upon what Habitat for Humanity is and what they do in their program. I'm very well versed in it. Director Chen just said he was looking for direction from us of how we want the 80-140 split. And so that's the conversation I'm having. If we want it to be 50% low income and 50% affordable market rate, like how do we want that split? Because although we're not going to tell them how to go out and find the people, how to run their program, because that's what they do, we are having an agreement with them that we set the rules of what we want, because we can say we want them all 80% AMI, and then that will be up to them to go and do it. So he was looking for direction from us. So that's why for me, I'm okay with doing 50%, 80% AMI, and 50%, 140.
To answer your question, the AMI, the average median income in Broward County is a little over $82,000. So
Per household.
80% AMI is approximately 65,000, and 120% is just shy of 100,000.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, both products are products that are typical developments with Habitat for Humanity. Their funding sources, their charter allows them to go after both of those markets. And in fact, just to speak a little bit more about where Chair Ryan was talking about, perhaps one of the biggest benefits of Habitat Humanity today is because there are many different organizations and associations that do affordable housing. Habitat is one of the very few that can actually do the financing for the buyer on the mortgage. So they actually insulate the affordability from whatever current market rates are in mortgage rate interest. This is a huge advantage that they have in making people or providing for people to qualify for the income level that's on the board.
Would what they're building, if on the AMI, would it affect, on what we judge? I mean, on what we decide for the resolution? Would it affect what type of building they build? No, right?
According to them, it would not affect the design of the property at all.
Okay. Board Member Davis?
Yes, I also wanted to just reiterate the fact that Turn 2 Construction, who does have the 80% AMI, they are having problems filling that because our workers they make the workforce make too much in order to afford that. So it's people who are garbage people who would want to, who you would think would be in that lower 80% AMI, they're still having problems filling that just because of the fact that they're making more than that 80% AMI. So I do think that because Habitat for Humanity has a turnkey operation and they do go through a rigorous applicant process, for them to pick those applicants and see who would be worthy of having the 80% and who would be for the 140% or whatever they decide, because by the time they get out of that program and by the time they graduate and put their 300 hours of sweat equity into it, they have come down to a small pool of people who are going to be successful in whatever they bring forward. So I would just say allow them to go through that process, see what that recommendation is, but and see what kind of applicant pool they come up with and what those incomes are from that applicant pool. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
To approve it.
All right, I have a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, so you're leaving it up to Habitat to decide? Is that what I'm
That's
hearing?
what the resolution is. Resolution
Keep
gives
that
us
80,
80
140.
Excuse me. The resolution is that we negotiate an agreement with them.
Yes.
And you
And my
recommend 80,
request for
140?
direction is what do you want me to negotiate? Because that affects the final document because we have a 30-year covenant on the affordability that they commit to.
I think we leave it to their discretion based upon what they're finding as they're doing this. It's going to take time. It's not something that happens overnight. So based upon what the market is at the time, I would move to approve that.
Second.
Okay, so to be clear, we're going off of the time,
Market rate.
the market. Well,
Market rate at the time.
so we're gonna leave it into the choice of Habitat for Humanity. Commissioner James.
Yes. Is that what Habitat for Humanity is looking for, Director Chin, or are they looking for more direction?
They are receptive to direction. I've been very careful not to violate our purchasing and RFP cone of silence. These are discussions I had with Habitat before we issued RFP. They are receptive to doing either level of income. They basically leaving it to see if we have any preference.
We have preference. Okay.
So, okay, well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, but I think we should almost give them a little more direction.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I would lean more towards workforce simply because we don't have any at all.
Yeah, workforce is 140, and low-income affordable is
120 to
80.
140, I
Yeah.
would say.
I just think given the community that it's in, if we look at the economics there, to at least have half of four, the people that are living there, to give them opportunity. Now, if there is no opportunity and they cannot find anything, then of course you go to the 80, but to just go, no, I don't know if that's a possibility. So if it's a possibility to have it half one way and half the other, and if they go through it and they don't find it, like if that's the priority first, and then the second level they can't find it, then you do all 140. I'm okay with that, but it's just hard for me to understand where that community is, and the people that live there are definitely in the 80% AMI and not even have something for the people that live in that area that can benefit from the program.
Commissioner Davis?
Well, that again goes back to my turn two comment, is because they're still not able to fill that gap of the 80% AMI in the neighborhood that they should be able to fill it in. And so the way that I see it, and we want the people who would work for City Hall, the firemen, the teachers, those kind of people would not be able to qualify for the 80% AMI. So if we're going to have to give direction, then I would go with the original recommendation of the chair, which is to say two workforce and if it's three, two workforce and one 80% or low income, and then if it's not, then 50-50 if we have to do that. But the last time, that's the problem. The problem that I ran into is that we couldn't change it back. So when we couldn't find somebody who fit the 120, we can't go back, or who couldn't fit into the 180, we couldn't change it back to 180 or 120. Sorry, my number.
The difference when that was the way we had advertised it was only for the 80%. And so that was the whole process for the bid, and that's how we wrote the purchase and sale agreement. So here, you're basically saying, if I understand correctly, support for 50%, the higher number being for the 120 to 140, and then the other 50% being for 80% AMI. And if they can't fulfill it after, let's say, 20 attempts, then it goes to the 140.
I would like to have that flexibility in there, not lock somebody into 1%.
We'll work on language.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure
to
we
that
can
effect.
figure out how to word that.
We just don't want them sitting empty. That's the problem, and
Yes.
that's what ends up happening. So, right, I know.
So I will take it that we have a consensus direction on how to negotiate that with Habitat. Thank you.
Vice Chair, do you want to amend your motion
Yes,
to include that
to
language?
reflect that.
Okay, perfect. Board Member Davis, do you accept that amendment?
Yes, she accepts it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes with the amendment. That makes sense.
Just, yeah, I just don't want them sitting empty. That's what's gonna happen.
Okay, on to item 7.1. This is regarding the patch site location.
Thank you. This is a subject that actually arose at our July 11th meeting, and it has taken some time to accumulate the due diligence. I've also, in addition to understanding the physical characteristics of the two pieces of property, one of them being at 1201 West Dania Beach Boulevard, which is the current location, versus the proposed alternative location being 1399 Sterling Road. The In addition to understanding the difference in the physical characteristics of the property, it was important to understand what were the farming prospects of it as well, since the patch actually is a community garden. And I have relied on some of our closest and longest term advisors on our farming for the patch. And in fact, one of those people is here tonight. Noah Siegel is in the audience. He is actually the farm manager for Fruitful Fields. We also engaged Jamie Castoro, who has been a consultant for the patch for the past 9 years, as well as our current lead market coordinator, Bianca Maria Barcarosi. And I provided some short bios to both of you because these are people that have some very serious backgrounds in agroecology that could provide some recommendations and suggestions for the differences, how to compare these sites. With that being said, I won't go through the memo. There's a lot of information there, but I will point to you that there is an attachment to this file that is a comparative matrix that basically takes all of the information I've been able to accumulate on these two parcels of land and breaks them down in what I think is very short and simple understanding between the two of them. And the quick, I guess, shortcut to the evaluation is the land at the Sterling Road location is about twice as big as the current location on Dania Beach Boulevard. However, in addition to the increased size of land, it also is a much higher quality piece of dirt. And that is because the current location floods every time that we get a rain forecast. That rain washes out the dirt at that current location. And part of our operating costs, we actually have to import dirt to the patch on an annual basis. The Sterling Road location is expected to be much higher quality, and its size will facilitate the growth of a wider range of crops and give us a steady production throughout the year. So while the site at Sterling Road is twice as big, the estimated farming output at Sterling Road is estimated to be 3 to 4 times that of Dania Beach Boulevard. And with that, I will say my recommendation would be to move the patch to Sterling Road.
Discussion? Commissioner Salvino?
Well, I'm sure everybody knows how I feel about it, but I'm going to reiterate a few things. First of all, with that report that Director Chin has given about the quality of the dirt and the way that things would grow and so on, I think is a very important situation for us. And I'm sure that if Noel wants to speak on that, you could probably make some words out there if you're interested, but you may not need to. But as far as the property itself, I mean, we've talked a lot about different things, and we have an opportunity right now. We just got done discussing housing, and over there where the patch is now standing, it can be we could put more housing there, whether it's affordable or whether it's low income or whatever the city decides to do with it at the time of the a purchase of that property once it's been I guess praised at what the value would be. saying that, then, then they have the patch, and then the patch would be in a better spot as far as the availability and the growing availability of a better quality of soil. By saying that, we have an opportunity. We don't have to do anything, but right now, if we do this at the patch to where it is right now, the city's going to have to lay out. I think we discussed this at one time, that it was over $100,000 or more to rebuild the patch, and to rebuild the patch, and by bringing more dirt in or putting irrigation systems in and so on, and starting over the pots after the April rains we had. We're actually rebuilding from the beginning. In the city, it would cost the city money to do that. I feel there's an opportunity out there by putting out the property for sale and putting in a requirement that whoever was able to buy that would be able to, part of that deal would be to put together the patch at the type of patch that we want together out of their pockets, the developer's pocket that would decide to build that either low income or affordable housing in that project over there. It doesn't have to be Saratoga Apartments. It doesn't have to be the other project that we have building by here. It could be anybody that wants to go out there and make a bid. I'm not locked into any particular person that might want to be able to do something, but I'm recommending to the board that I think we should put it out there and see if there's any interest whatsoever in that direction, and see if anybody would be interested in paying for the patch at the 1399 location, and then taking and putting the housing project, a housing project on the patch land that we have now. I think it's a win-win for all of us. I think that there's going to be, we talk about building more housing in our city. It could be rental, it could be for sale. It doesn't really matter to me which way it goes, but I think it's an opportunity for us to utilize the land in the best way for both sites. And that's how I feel. Thank you. And with that discussion, if anybody else has anything to say, if not, I would make a motion to at least get consensus to go out there and at least see if there's anybody interested in doing this, or put it out for a request out to see if anybody's interested in doing this after we get an appraisal, and whatever the form and the way that it's being done, by our director. I would be willing to see if I can get consensus from the board.
Okay, let's have some further discussion. Commissioner James?
Yes, thank you. Before I make any type of consensus or decision on the possibility of selling that patch, I definitely would want to speak to the community. Just understanding the demographic or the geography over there, we just approved, I don't think you were on the board, but we just approved around 700 residential units. That's right there on Bryan Road. That's right on Dania Beach Boulevard and Bryan Road. 700 units that hasn't even been developed and not going to be developed. Just built Saratoga 1, just built Saratoga 2, just built Saratoga 3. This is all in a very small space, if you look at it per square feet or however miles. And then to put another housing or residential development, I think that it is, I think it's too much. I think it's overdevelopment in one area. It's completely changing the look of that area, and I definitely would want to have the input from the residents on that. As far as moving it, I'm in favor of keeping it where it is. It's a community garden. A lot of the community was a part of the process of putting the patch there in the first place. It is in the middle of a food desert. We do have a lot of community partners that come out and partner with us, a lot of different organizations that come out and help there with us. I would be in support of selling the other property, but I'm not in support of selling the patch. Thank you.
Commissioner Salvino?
Would you beep in before me, Joyce? Commissioner Davis? Okay. I understand Board Member James's, recommendation of, the building there, but, we constantly talk about building, housing, and now because it's there and an opportunity arises, and we still can have the community garden, and we can still do all these things. and save the city over $100,000, which we always talk about saving the city money by not rebuilding it and having somebody else rebuild it. I don't understand the the problem that it would. I think I'm confused on why everything seems like it's a positive. You get housing for people that were looking for it, an affordable or low income. You have a patch that's still going to be there. You're going to have somebody else paying for the patch. It doesn't cost the city any money. I mean, I'm sure that if the residents don't want anything around there, those residents that are there obviously may want nothing next to them. But then we're talking about where we're going to put more residents and where we're going to where we're going to try to build more low income or affordable housing. And there is nowhere else because nobody else is willing to give up any land. So I mean, we're fighting. We're running a circle by not making this decision, at least to see what's out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Yes, I tend to agree with Board Member Salvino on this, but it's not just about the fact that it's saving money, $100,000, but you're talking about a piece of property that was supposed to be for growing crops. It was supposed to be for a garden, but we're having an issue every year because of the rain and not being able to grow the crops there. So they do get grown, and then they are flooded out, and it's destroying the soil, as indicated in here. It's creating a problem that's an ongoing problem that it's not just saving $100,000 one time. This is every year there's going to be money that we're going to put into this, and it's not going to end up being successful as it's supposed to be. It's not getting rid of the patch. It's just moving it to another location, a larger location, with more visibility. And I don't think there's anything wrong with looking into it and seeing if there's somebody who's interested, and they may have an idea as to what to do with that property that might make more sense. We've already been told 1,000 times, you can't sell that property on Sterling Road because they have a tower that's going in there, correct? So realistically, you either leave it completely empty or you put in something like this that would be considered green space. You can't put any housing there. And I don't even know that we want to put housing at the West Annie Beach Boulevard property, but at least look to see if there's something else that might be able to be done with that, and then have this larger space that we don't have to worry about replacing everything every year whenever it rains. That's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Davis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A few things, because I don't feel that we have the full cost of what it would be to go over to the Sterling Road location. There's going to have to be a lot of infrastructure, a lot of things that are going to have to still cost-wise be put into that location. So when we're just looking at what's here now, I don't think that that's a full picture of what the entire cost would be. But I am coming from a community perspective because this is a community garden. And when you look at a community garden, you look at what are the thriving components of what make up a community garden. And it should be located in an accessible area that is convenient for the community it serves. It should be easily reached by bike, by foot, and by the general public that it serves. This Sterling Road location is a very, very, very highly trafficked area. This is not something in which the community that currently uses the patch now, the seniors, the nonprofit organizations, the schools who can walk from their school to the community garden by foot, by definition, that make it thriving and accessible to a diverse group of people, that creates community and community ownership within that. You are going to have a very busy, busy, busy highway, and that, again, that location has a terrible smell from that canal, and I just feel that you're going to be taking something that the community really loves. I have been to several events there, Christmas events. I have been there volunteering myself. I have eaten the food, the greens from that garden. And so whatever your soil, maybe you need to bring in the soil because whatever grows there is absolutely delicious. And I'm a foodie, so I know. And therefore, I am in favor of, first of all, having community buy-in from the community about whether or not moving their community garden is something that the community would want. And to discount their voices, to move a garden that they like to use, that they have been using, and that is accessible to them by foot and by bike, and allows them to thrive as a neighborhood. Before you start making decisions on their behalf, then you absolutely they deserve the respect of having their voices heard on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on this. You know, these are both strange lots. One is really skinny and long, you know, and the other one is split in half by a canal. Like, I know we say that it's almost 2.5 acres, but really, there's not much you can really do with that lot. And when you look at the appraisal, the appraiser says we have made an extraordinary appraisal assumption by saying that this land is worth this, considering that the city of Dania will change its zoning to industrial or, you know, multifamily. So that Sterling Road property is really not worth much unless we make it valuable. And, you know, just look at the easement on the property. How are you going to get access to it? Like, I wish we could do something. We could turn that into green space somehow, you know, make it like a biker's park or something, but there's really nowhere anybody's going to park, or there's no access there. That just doesn't make sense. And, you know, but right now, from my understanding, the patch is no more right now. We don't have any vegetables or anything growing out of there, right?
We've done some interim planning, but it certainly has not been restored to its capacity.
Okay, but we're still growing some vegetables there? Okay, well,
We're
that's
trying to
good.
get it started again, some.
Okay, and we still have active members who are still signed up?
Actually, that is another piece of research that was done. Um, as part of an indication of the community participation, we have 24 community garden plots there that are available just for registration for that. For more than a year, in fact, for almost 2 years, there have been 2 registrations for those plots. 4 of them are from a group out of the Saratoga project. Those projects, those 4 plots have not been worked in over a year. The other 4, there's another 4 plots that are currently under work, and they're held by a resident of Hollywood. That's the entire use of the community plots available at the garden right now.
Yeah, so it's not very active.
Again, I'm sure that there's residents that enjoy the green space and so forth, but they're not actually participating in the gardening program.
Yes. Look, I think the community needs a community garden for sure. And it's nice to have it in its location. It's right in the middle of the neighborhood. And that's, like I said, that's a strange piece of property. And I commend the city for what they did there. Unfortunately, you know, the patch went through a rough patch, you know, figuratively and literally. So it's, you know, it's like I say this about golf courses. I could talk about it because we don't have a golf course in our city. It's not supposed to make money. It's more of a service to the community. Not everything that the city provides needs to be profitable, but it needs to make somewhat sort of financial sense when we're talking about totally revamping a community garden. Do we learn from our mistakes from the flood? You know, do we learn how to be more resilient? Maybe you truck in some more dirt. I'm not sure. But this Sterling Road parcel, I would love to activate this somehow. You know, this split parcel. Lord knows what you're going to do on the north side of the canal. But the south side, it looks like it has some promise, but it seems to be closed in by boundaries, you know, just by looking at it. So I don't know where there would be access.
There is an access road.
There is an access
Yes,
road.
there is.
There is
Okay.
an access road.
So we have an easement. All right.
No, there's a road. I mean,
There's an
and
actual-
we own the road, the land, so
To
it's not an
Sterling?
easement. It's
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. There is an access road on the east side of the bridge over the canal.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I would definitely like to activate that. You know, we could turn that into a community garden also. Who knows? But it's, I would like to explore further options. Like I mentioned this before in our previous meetings, I like where the patch is now to be maybe like a linear park. I think that would make sense. Still keep it green space, and we're just expanding our park system. And same thing at this part on Sterling Road. Keep it a park. If a community garden's not, if we tried and tried for years and years and it's not working, then it's and no one wants to volunteer, then it's not working. But to just give it up, and sell it for development, I'm not for that. I still want to keep both of these properties green space, whether it be a park or a community garden, some type of mitigation for flooding in that neighborhood. Who knows what the possibilities are that are there? And we could also look into maybe a P3 partnership in one of these industrial sites over on Sterling Road. So there's a lot of options, but with the patch right now, obviously, if we want to have any success, we'd have to start putting the money in it right away.
Well, there is some upfront money to start with, but I think that it seems to me that the next logical step, if in fact there's a consensus to get more definition on moving the patch, I think the first thing we should do is give me direction to issue a public notice and an RFP so we can see what kind of interest there is in the current location. That would give us an indication if there's actually a market to actually assist us with the financial cost of moving the patch.
Okay, I like that direction, Director Chen. Commissioner James, I'm a board member James.
Yes, I'm a little confused with that direction. Okay, I'll get back to that part. I do want to say, I think it is a little bit of an unfair assessment to speak about where the patch is currently. I think once pre-COVID, the patch was thriving. And I'm not saying it was thriving like bringing all this revenue, but it was bringing a lot more engagement. We were having chefs come and do workshops on things that they got at the patch. The CRA board was very active in the patch doing different videos and things to promote the patch. I do think that it's not only a marketing issue, it's an issue with really getting out there and having people that are working for the patch and that are in the CRA that are developing relationships to see how we can bring the patch back to life. Because after COVID, we went to, okay, ordering only online. Okay, we're open, now we're closed. Now we're open, now we're closed. There has not been a consistent effort to really make, in my opinion, there has not been the same consistent effort pre-COVID when we weren't having these types of conversations, because there always have been a conversation of if the patch makes money. But Chair, you're right. Everything is not to be generated with revenue. I mean, certain things are an investment in our communities and they are a service. There are also some opportunities that we have looked at, and I think I looked at even with the city manager a while ago, that said maybe we can split the patch and have the patch be a little smaller and make it a little more of a park, or put a little playground there or something that can still be green space. There are many opportunities other than building a development on top of it or selling it. I don't think we should. I think we have a small little. We barely have any land to continue to sell it, and so I think that is a great investment. I do remember also having conversations about that Sterling property, and I am okay with putting that out there and see what kind of interest we get, because we've spoken about maybe when we were doing our Parks Master Plan a long time ago, even speaking about maybe doing an amphitheater there. But then, you deal with the issues of parking, you have all different other issues that come up, but there were other conversations is my point. So my vote is to absolutely keep the patch where it's at for now. If we're going to need to put money into it now. Find a way to save it, find a way to use, didn't we do like a patch master plan? Find a way to use whatever data that is to see how we can make it work instead of going to how we can get rid of it. Thank you.
Board Member Salvino.
Yes, thank you. Listening to everybody's comments on it's okay. Everything, when you talked about the community involvement and so on, there's other parts of the community that also are paying taxes, and the tax dollars that are out there that are being spent in our city. It's not just particularly the patch. We're dropping, $100,000. I'm just using that number because that number was thrown up for a while, And then we were talking about, unless I misunderstood Board Member Davis, we were talking about there was a value that was set on on 1399, what the cost would be, and so on. But you know that wasn't what my proposal was. My proposal was that we wouldn't be paying anything out of the city's coffer to do both, and that's where we were at, and that's again we were going to get both, and whether if you don't want if you're going to not want to do some form of housing, which we always talk about, I'm really confused on 1 minute we're asking for housing, 1 minute we're asking for places for people to live, 1 minute we're asking for people to be home buyers, and then we have an opportunity to do this, and now we don't want to take a piece of available land that may be a possibility to do that with, and they're set on it about the community. But we have to be careful every time we start talking about parks. I remember when I first was on the board 6 years ago, we talked about parks, and we said, well, when you put a park in, it doesn't take much to put a park in; it just takes a lot to maintain it. That means you have to put more in your budget to maintain a park. You have to put more in it to maintain the stuff that's in the park, and it just that the community that's there that that I can't. And then we talk about how many people are using signing up. You have less signups, and maybe it was post COVID, and maybe it wasn't. I mean, there could be a variety of things, but by I'm listen, I don't whatever the board decides on. I just think it would be an idea to go out there to see. All I'm requesting is to go out there and see what would come back, and see if somebody can offer something that we have a different view on. Last night we talked about taking other views and listening to other people and seeing what other views are about. Instead of being personal. So listen, I'm not going to tell you I insist on this. I'm just asking for consensus to go out and see what's there. If the board decides not to, that's the board's decision. That's what we call being open about it and talk about. But I think by closing the door and not giving an opportunity to see what's out there with 2 pieces of land that are available and not costing the city a lot of any money if possible. If not, and we see for the patch we're at, we're $100,000 right out of the pocket right off the beginning, and that's like you say, Chair, that it's our commissioner or the director. It's every year, when we get the rains, it's another 100,000, it's another 100,000, where we can eliminate that particular money that goes out. And then again, during the year, we continue to ask for more and more things. And again, that's we have to be wise on what we spend on the taxpayers' dollars. And I'm just putting that out there for everybody just to realize that we got to watch. It's like our own pocket. We're spending their dollars. We got to be careful how we spend it. And that's just some thought.
So, Board Member Salvino, you're saying you want to see what the value of the
No,
property
I would
is?
like. I mean, I just like to put it out there to see if just to get it. I mean, there's no going to move the patch, no going to build a building. Just go out there and see if anybody wants to make an offer on something that would be out there, just to say this land could be available. This, these are, and have the the director draw up. If by doing that you'd have to build, the patches at no cost to the city. You have to put it in the condition where where it's been designed under a design program at the 1399, and what you would be willing to put over. What are you willing to put? Whether you're willing to put townhomes or 4 stories. I mean, just listen to it. I mean, just open it up to see what's there, and everybody would have an opportunity to review it at that point. All I'm asking for is a consensus, just to look at it. If you don't like it at that point, then we take a different direction. But if you're adamant about not doing that at all, then we're not open-minded about what the possibilities are.
Commissioner Davis, Board Member.
Yes, I am in favor of keeping it green space. I'm not in favor of looking at development on that property, whether it's a park, whether we do something else with it. I'm not in favor of development on that. What I do want to know is that I want to know how the $45,000 that Spirit donated to the patch, how was that allocated to improve the patch?
Actually, it's gone toward the farming of the patch to date. It also has paid for the consultants that have participated and helped us with crop rotations and identifying strategies, as well as how to perhaps implement the patch master plan that was part of the CRA plan update. That money is being used toward that. It would go toward the new location as well if there's any outstanding balances to that funding.
Vice Chair.
I don't think anybody here is talking about getting rid of the patch. Not a single person is saying get rid of the patch. And it doesn't, I know I certainly haven't said that I'm looking for it to be profitable. What I am saying is I don't want it to be something that we're constantly putting money into and not seeing any sort of result other than to make a few people feel better. Um, and it's, whether it's green space or it's something else, the bottom line is that it's a lot of money going into a property that doesn't really have anything to show for it. And the proof is in the numbers and what you're talking about, and the fact that no one's even coming there. They know it's been open, but people aren't even going there. And even when it was busy, I remember going there a few years back, and they were actually selling produce that they got from somewhere else because the weevils got to the produce that they were growing. So there's always something. It's not something that, this is not just a one-time thing. This is something that keeps happening year after year after year in that location. It doesn't mean we're going to get rid of it. Still, I just think there's nothing wrong with looking at options. There's absolutely nothing wrong with looking at options and seeing what else is out there and what the opportunities are. Whether it is housing, whether it could be single family homes, who knows? It could be a number of things. Nothing wrong with looking at other options and just seeing what the possibilities are before we start throwing more money at something that isn't successful. And with that, I would like to call the question.
I don't think there was a second ever, so.
This is just a discussion. Commissioner Salvino?
I was just gonna say, I think we've talked, everybody said their fill. I was just gonna say, I'd like to call for consensus, say either yes or no, then we can move on if it's all right, Chair. I'll specify. A consensus to go out and look and see if anybody's interested and what they would be interested in doing as far as, putting the patch in at $13.99, what they would offer to do that, what we would request them to do, what they're interested in that, and what they would be offering to do at the West Dania Beach location, or just anything anybody wants to offer with the thing, just something, put it out there and see if anybody has anything to say. Because right now, I mean, seriously, I'm concerned about how much money we put into it. I don't care if we make money. I just don't want to see it. I just want to see something happen that would be beneficial to all. So I'm just asking them to make that motion as a consensus, just to look at it a little bit and see what happens. We don't have to do anything other than just get a consensus on going out there to put something out. That's all.
Okay. I'll say one thing. It's just there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's hard just to grab somebody and be like, hey, look at this property. It used to be a community garden, and look, we have this other property over here on the canal, it's split in half. Let's make a deal. I'd say we are 5, capable people, 6, Mr. Director Chen, and we're trying to come up with a solution to this, and it's obviously very tricky. So I don't think just passing the buck to somebody else and they're going to come with some magic plan for us.
You never know.
But whatever. Who are we going to reach out to? Like, who are we reaching out to
Why don't we
about
let
this?
Director Chin come back with some ideas, or come back with some interest? I mean, like I said, all I know is looking for consensus just to try something. That's all.
Okay. All right. So I have a motion and a second to look for other options with the patch and the Sterling Road project. Yeah, it's just.
I don't know how it's so vague.
Board Member Chen, how about you give us Director Chen, how about you give us your recommendation after hearing our discussion?
Yes, I'd recommend that we initiate a public notice and an RFP of a potential interest in selling the current patch site at 1201 West Dania Beach Boulevard, and including that proposals that assist with the cost of moving the current use of the patch to another location would be considered favorable. Now, an RFP like that, it meets the legal standards for dealing with CRA holdings and vested interest in a piece of property, and yet you can reject any and all proposals you receive, so it doesn't commit you to any final solution. You find out what the people are willing to do, what their interests are, what their thoughts are, and gives you something more tangible to discuss at that time.
Commissioner Salvino,
I'm
you
okay
agree
with
with
that.
that as a motion? Okay.
Something.
Board Member James, before I move
Yeah.
on to the second.
Yes, thank you. I know you have a motion in a second. I just want to be clear, you want to put this out before even telling the community what you're planning on putting it out to do. So we want the community to have trust in us and to be transparent, but we want to potentially sell a property that the community has already been vocal about wanting it, but not even having this conversation with the community. Just putting it out for RFP and see if we could get a seller. Yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just wanted that on.
Yeah, I'd say it's non-committal, like Director Chen said, but it would be nice to get, a proposal from an outside party just to see. So I have a motion to second. Just call to a vote, Laura.
Board Member Davis?
No.
Board Member James?
No.
Board Member Salvino?
Yes.
Vice Chair Llewellyn? Chair Ryan?
Yes.
Chair, the motion carries.
Okay. Yeah, this is non-committal. But we have to explore our options because right now we're kind of stuck in the mud. And yeah. So Director Chen, definitely look forward to hearing back from you on that update.
Thank you very much.
All right, and I say that was it. That was our last item for discussion. So now we'll go to board member comments, and we'll start with Board Member Davis.
Save the patch. Done.
Board Member James.
No comment.
Board Member Salvino.
I spoke my piece.
Okay. Vice Chair.
I got nothing for this meeting. Thank you.
I know, yeah. I hope you guys carry this over this one. Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work on this, Director Chen. This is definitely a tough item that we had to tackle, but we need to get somewhere with this. We need to utilize at least that property that we have, either get it back going or find a plan or come up with something because it's just been sitting there since we've had the issue. So, yeah, it doesn't send out a good message to the community, I would say, just letting it sit there and not being used. But it's nice to hear that we've tried to restore some crops. So, thank you, everybody, for your time. Our next meeting's at 7. Meeting adjourned.